Hey guys, we all know the saying that practice makes perfect, and we all know that perfect practice makes perfect. But what is perfect practice? Well, today I'm going to show you the 5 essentials necessary for perfect practice every single time. The first essential is frequency. How often should you practice? Now, this may be a little more complicated than you would think. In reality, it depends on what your goals are. If you're looking to master a specific skill, then practicing for longer sessions in a shorter length of over time is actually totally fine. But if you're looking to actually master a craft, to master playing this style of guitar or singing in this way, then having shorter practices over a longer duration is much better. It's much better for the long run in order to master an actual craft. If you're looking to become the next Luke Holland, it's much better to practice for 30 minutes a day or an hour a day or 6 months as opposed to 2 hours a day for 2 months. With whatever practice frequency you decide, the biggest key is commitment. You make that decision. You say, this is how long I'm going to practice for every day, and this is how long of length we're going to practice. 6 months, a year, 5 years, doesn't matter. The biggest thing is you make that commitment and you stick with it. No excuses. Nothing will derail you towards your goal as fast as a lack of commitment. I know just how difficult getting consistent practice in every single day is. When I was in Texas, I was playing with a band and I literally lived in the recording studio. So they had recorded in one room, I was in a room right connected to it, and they would always be tracking every day. So I could never get actual drum practice in. I could never sit behind a kit and lay down some beats because they're tracking. So what did I end up doing? I would literally grab my practice pad, I'd grab my drumsticks, get in the car, and I'd leave. And I would go sit out in front of Walmart. I'd go sit out in front of Safeway. I'd go sit out and do my laundry. I went to the laundromat one time. While the laundry was working, I went outside and I just started practicing. And I brought my metronome and I'm just listening and practicing all my rudiments, all my foundations. And then I remember this one time, it started downpouring, utter downpour. But I knew I made this commitment to practice for 1 hour every single day. And if I wanted to get to the goals that I had set, I knew I needed to keep that regimen. So I just took it, I brought myself under at least half under a roof so I could, and I just kept practicing. It is difficult as hell sometimes, but if you want to reach your goals, the only way you can do that is through consistency in your frequency of practice. The second essential for a perfect practice is practicing the fundamentals. Now, if you don't know what this means, go ahead and search drum cover, guitar cover, any sort of cover on YouTube or Instagram, and I guarantee you will find hundreds of videos of people playing and practicing and doing some things that are quite technical, but not actually doing it with proper form or technique. Before I go any further, I want you to know that I am 100% guilty of this. I'm gonna go ahead and link my Maroon 5 drum cover to show you this. And you can see I have some fun techniques down, but I actually didn't master, like, okay, how do you do a paradiddle? What is a paradiddle-diddle? How do you hold the stick? How do you get that correct sound by how you actually hit the kit and hit the drums? What is your proper form to play? How do you set up a kit? All of these things I knew nothing of. A great way to do this is to think of what are your 5 most fundamental elements for this craft. If you're singing, is one of them your breathing technique? If you're playing drums, is it how you hold the stick or how you set up your kit? If you're playing guitar, is it your picking technique? Think of your top 5 most fundamental aspects, just fundamental basic for this craft, and remember to practice and drive those into your brain so that they're subconscious. You guarantee that you are excellent at those every single time you practice. That one habit alone will put you miles ahead over 80% of the competition around you. The third essential for a perfect practice is your technique. Now, this is where you really get to dive in and have a lot of fun. This is where you decide, okay, what is the technique I'm going to learn? You've already decided that you're going to commit to 30 minutes, to 1 hour, every single day, whatever it is. You've already mastered those fundamental rudiments, those fundamental elements to your craft. So now you get to have the fun and say, okay, now that I know these fundamentals, I know how to play this instrument. Now let's make this music. Let's take this beyond just playing an instrument, actually write music on this. This is where you get to be technical. You get to learn those ghost notes. You get to learn the piccolo patterns. You get to learn how to do the runs in your vocals. This is where all of the fun begins. And a lot of people when they first start, they dive right into the technique and ignore the fundamentals. And so since you already have that covered, like I said, you are miles ahead of most people already. When it comes to learning techniques, YouTube is by far the best platform. There is almost nothing that isn't on here. Almost everything is on this site at some point. If you want to learn how to do triplet paradiddles, let's say with a flam, and then on the second one you want to add some ghost notes, you can literally look up each aspect of that here on YouTube. If you want to know how to do a roll of X amount of notes going up, down, you can find all of that right here on this beautiful, lovely platform that you are currently on, so we know that you know how to use it. When you're studying different techniques, it is so important to get creative. I did this when I was studying ghost notes, and I ended up doing two different things. One is I followed the Luke Holland way and set up a mirror right next to my drum kit, and then had some wood hanging over my snare that went about 3 inches, the 3 inches versus the 9, and then literally just measured it out. And I'm like, I can only do bam, these 3 inches, this is all I'm gonna do. And then versus the 9, 3 inches versus the 9 versus the 12, the whole shebang. If you're a drummer, you understand that lingo. The other thing I did to get really creative is I have a djembe, and so I just started practicing on my djembe and started doing ghost notes. How do I add ghost notes into my playing? And that practice helped immensely and transferred very well over to the kit. So when you're actually practicing your main craft and when you're learning a specific technique, you can really dive and get creative by hitting other areas, by hitting other things that may transfer well. Also, for shameless promotion, you can see my technique improve dramatically between the Maroon 5 video and then this Valley Heart video that I recorded about 6 months to a year later. The fourth essential for getting into a perfect practice is to develop the habit of getting into something called the flow state. Now, the flow state, like the name implies, is almost a state of meditation that you get when you're just so engulfed and so in the moment in your craft. Have you ever had those times where you're practicing and then all of a sudden you look up and it's been 2 hours and you're like, what the hell just happened? Where'd everything go? That is the flow state. That is exactly what it's like. Some people, you can get it when you're reading. You can get it when you're just so deep in the zone in your craft. It's really cool because there's actually a study where they looked at the top surgeons in the country, and in one of the studies, one of the surgeons, he said he reported that he was in the middle of a surgery, and then all of a sudden he just looked and he just made that last stitch and he was done, and looked on the floor and there was some debris from the ceiling had actually fallen on the floor. And so he looked around and he's like, hey guys, what the hell just happened? And they said, you were so in the zone that you didn't notice, but there was a small earthquake and some of the ceiling just shook loose and fell. And he was so in the zone and so in the moment that he didn't even notice that. That is the flow state. As a musician, I'm sure you get this almost every time you step up on that stage. You get in the zone and the entire night goes by just like that. The fifth and final essential for a perfect practice is to remember to have fun, to remember why you're actually doing this. If you're here because you want to be the next Luke Holland, right? Then you're practicing your ghost notes, you're practicing your paradiddles, your flams, your blast beats, you're practicing all of the technique, right? And you're spending 1 hour every single day doing this, right? You're gonna get bored out of your mind. I mean, let's be real, that stuff is fun, but it's the real fun comes when you apply it, when you actually take what you're learning and apply it to your playing. So by actually incorporating the two, you become more motivated to push through those difficulties, those barriers, those boredoms, to make this a commitment and make this actually something that will happen and not just something you say you want, but something that you get. You do this by remembering to have fun. You have to incorporate fun into your practice if you want to stay for a long time. For that ultimate success in mastering a craft, you have to remember to incorporate fun. Thank you so much for watching, fam. If there's anything that you think I missed, feel free to drop that in the comments, as well as what your goals are, what goals you're committing to. I would love to see where you're going and where we're striving after. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button and that subscribe button. I will be posting 2 videos every week, so there'll be plenty of more content and value coming your way. Thank you so much for watching.